SEC stuff. It is Georgia and Emma, and we are so excited to walk you through the big Saturday that happened in the SEC yesterday. We had a thriller in Knoxville. Number 6, Georgia closed the game in overtime against Tennessee, 44-41. It was full of momentum swings, explosive plays, misses, just it was a really great game. I will say that. It was stressful. I was glad I'm not a Georgia or Tennessee fan because I would just have been really stressed.
Yeah, we were allowed to just sit back and enjoy the game, which it was a phenomenal game, and Tennessee raced out to a 21-7 lead. I was really excited about it, seeing how Tennessee is still a strong team after the whole debacle with Nico leaving and then bringing in a new QB. You really had no idea what they were going to be like. So for them to come out this strong against Georgia was sensational. But I looked at that score and I was like, yeah, I saw this last year with Alabama and Georgia. And Georgia, you really have to beat all the way when the clock strikes 0 in the fourth quarter. And if you don't do that, you're not going to win because they can grind it out. And they did. But Joey Aguilar was wonderful. He was 14 for 14 with 3 touchdowns. He was looking unstoppable. And then Georgia kind of started to figure it out.
Aguilar, he definitely has adjusted well to the SEC, which I think is hard for a lot of QBs to come in so late and do. The second half had its, ups and downs, and Tennessee did kind of establish momentum, but Georgia just doesn't stop fighting. And, the Georgia went for it with 2:32 left. On a fourth down, and Gunner Stockton hit a 28-yard fade to London Humphreys in the end zone. And then they converted that 2-point conversion to tie it. And that's where it comes down to coaching and discipline. And Georgia's always going to have that discipline behind Kirby Smart. It sucks for Tennessee. It's now a 9-0 winning streak that Georgia has against them. I really thought this was going to be the year that they were going to be able to end it, but they didn't.
No, and they looked so strong in the game, and they could have ended it if Max Gilbert made the 43-yard field goal. But you know what? You shouldn't have to win a game on field goals. You shouldn't have to rely solely on your kicker to win the game. And I saw him on the sidelines. He looked like he was going to throw up. He was not, I don't know. He just seemed scared that
He
it
looks
was
like a
his.
5-year-old.
Yeah.
I don't I'm not convinced that he actually is college age because he looked like a 12-year-old boy, um, who had never kicked a ball before and was just like, "Hey, go out there and do this real quick." I did feel bad because, in overtime, he did make a really good kick,
He
and so it
did.
was definitely nerves. But yeah, I mean, that sucks to have that all put onto you, and I feel like Georgia's doing some type of voodoo because they're like, "Oh, you're gonna beat us with a field goal." Not gonna happen. Someone out there, Kirby Smart's got some voodoo going on Georgia's sideline where he's like, "Nobody's beating us with a kick."
And also when they were in overtime and he did make that field goal, I was just like, well, Georgia's about to stomp down the field and make a touchdown because they're not going to lose in overtime. They've just grinded out the whole game. They beat you in the trenches at this point. Like, they are not losing in overtime. So you have to beat them in regulation. So I was very impressed by Tennessee. Aguilar proved he is that guy. He went 24 for 36, 371 yards and 4 touchdowns. He started 14 and 14. He delivered clutch throws late, even though he did cool off mid game. Against that Georgia defense, but he seems like a legit quarterback for this team. And also Heupel's wide receivers are great. And Chris Brazzell, he looked like the true wide receiver one with 177 yards, 3 touchdowns. He had physical plays. He got the deep balls. Braylon Stanley was a strong complement underneath him with 97 yards. So this is a very strong offense, and they definitely gave Georgia secondary fits. So I am not counting them out for anything. I think this is a very legit team that can make it to the playoffs, which is fantastic considering where we were back in in April and May when Nico left. And then there was just confusion and question marks across the board. So for Tennessee, being toe to toe with Georgia, who is the standard right now in the SEC, I think that is sensational.
I will say I was shocked by how bad Georgia's secondary was for their defense. I think Tennessee really did a lot of teams a favor film wise to be able to watch. And obviously Kirby's going to be working on getting those things fixed, but Tennessee was really just able to throw it downfield and they beat those corners. And yeah, Georgia's secondary looked a mess. There was basically, in my opinion, the defense was trash on both teams yesterday. It really came down to who was going to score last, um, which is weird for a Georgia team to not have very impressive defense. But, Georgia, Gunner Stockton, he was 23 for 31, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns. He showed toughness, and he's a great quarterback. I think he's very underrated. But I think he does keep Georgia cool and composed, and he's not flashy, so I think that's why he gets overlooked. But he's a good team manager.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still think Georgia obviously is a championship team, but they are certainly flawed at this moment in time. A lot of adjustments need to be made, but we're in September. We're in week 3. We're moving into week 4. Georgia does get a bye week here. They absorbed Tennessee's punches. They came back from 14 down. They tied it in the final minutes and they found their way into overtime. It's not a pretty win, but a championship caliber team survives week in and week out. And Georgia found a way to do that on the road in a very hostile SEC environment against a very, very good Tennessee team who was playing their heart out. So Georgia is still a contender here, but they do have a lot to fix, especially in that secondary, which is very, very vulnerable. And like you said, they just gave all the teams they're playing great film to use to work off of to figure out a way to beat them, because you can beat them there. So in short, Tennessee found their QB. They have a great QB, great wide receiver one. They proved Heupel's system can dent Georgia, but it still can't finish games against them. So we're going to have to see next time they match up if they can actually overcome losing to Georgia year after year after year. And Georgia, Stockton's the real deal. But the O-line, the DBs are glaring issues. The Bulldogs are resilient, though, and that's why they're going to remain SEC favorites, but they're just not invincible here. And they do have a bye week, and then they play Alabama. They do get the home field advantage, but Alabama now has film to use on them. And Alabama with Ty Simpson right now looks good, and they can expose them in certain areas in the offense now.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be a good matchup. We'll obviously preview that game coming closer to that time. This was Georgia's first real test, and the Alabama Georgia game will be Alabama's second real test after a really upsetting loss against Florida State the first game of the season. So we'll see. Obviously, Kirby's going to have a lot of things to fix, and he is the coach that can do that in just a week. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I mean, Tennessee's a great team. It sucks for them that this is now 9 straight wins, but they found their quarterback. They're starting to find their groove, and they're going to be just fine.
They're gonna be just fine. I could easily see them in the playoffs. I mean, there's certain teams now in the SEC that I'm like, I don't see them getting there, aka Texas, aka Florida, aka South Carolina, maybe. The roads have opened up a little bit in the SEC. Granted, it is still just ended week 3 going into week 4, so there's a lot of football to be played, but we are getting a bigger picture on these teams and what they can be. So yeah, but we're excited that we got some great games coming up with these two teams as well. So what do you guys think about this game? We loved it. This was kind of the best game that we've seen all season so far, especially in the SEC. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we will be previewing week 4 very soon. So check out that. Bye-bye.